The film begins by showing an old man named Harry. He had fought as a soldier in the Royal British Marines during the troubled times of the Northern Ireland conflict. Harry lived in a modest apartment in a neighborhood infested with crime and drug activities. His meager retirement salary forced him to stay there, unable to afford a better place. Every morning, he would visit his wife at the hospital, even though she couldn't respond to him anymore. Harry often found solace at a local bar owned by a man named Sid. One day, a guy named Leonard cautioned Harry to stay away from Sid. He revealed that Sid was involved in shady dealings, selling illegal stuff like weapons and exploiting young girls. Harry, fearing the consequences, hushed Leonard and urged him to keep it low so the thugs wouldn't overhear them. One night, while gazing out of his window, Harry witnessed a gang of thugs stealing from his neighbor's car. When the car owner confronted them, the thugs unleashed a brutal attack, leaving him defenseless. Although Harry saw the crime unfold, he chose to stay silent, not wanting to get tangled up in any trouble. The next day, Harry received a distressing phone call from the hospital, informing him about his wife's worsening condition. Despite the harsh weather, he rushed to the hospital, taking a different route to avoid the thugs who controlled the pedestrian tunnel. However, upon arrival, he was devastated to find his wife's bed empty. Days passed after the funeral, but Harry couldn't let go of the pain of losing his wife, especially since he never got the chance to bid her a final farewell. It was during this time that Leonard approached him and suggested they go to the bar. Hoping to uplift his friend's spirits, Leonard engaged Harry in conversation and challenged him to a game of chess. As they talked, Harry revealed his vow to stay away from trouble and seek a peaceful life from now on. While they were in the restroom, Leonard confided in Harry, expressing his fear of becoming a target for the thugs. He even showed Harry an old bayonet he kept for self-defense. Worried about his best friend's safety, Harry tried to calm him down and proposed going to the police station. However, Leonard disclosed that he had already reported the situation, but the police hadn't taken any action. The following night, Leonard faced another terrifying incident. Someone deliberately set fire to a pile of garbage right outside his apartment door. Awoken by the spreading smoke, Leonard acted quickly, extinguishing the flames before escaping from the imminent danger. The next day, two detectives named Frampton and Hicock paid a visit to Harry's apartment. They brought the devastating news that Leonard had been found dead in a tunnel for pedestrians. The investigation to find the person responsible was still ongoing. Harry was heartbroken by the loss of his only remaining friend and deeply regretted his inability to protect Leonard. After their visit, Frampton, Hicock, and several police officers went to the residence of a young man named Noel, who was suspected of being involved in Leonard's murder. As Noel was taken away, he pleaded with his mother to contact his uncle for help in getting him out of jail. Meanwhile, the people from the neighborhood, who had grown tired of Noel's troublesome behavior, mocked him as he was driven off. In the interrogation room, Noel and his three friends, Carl, Marky, and Dean, were individually questioned with a lawyer present, hired by Noel's uncle. These four thugs were suspected of being involved in Leonard's murder due to their frequent hangouts in the tunnel and their disruptive activities in the neighborhood. Despite having legal representation, the thugs consistently provided the same answers and even insulted detectives Frampton and Hicock. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough evidence, and the thugs were eventually released. Feeling devastated, Harry tried to drown his sorrows by getting drunk at the bar that night. Little did he know Dean, one of the thugs, observed his actions. Later, as Harry made his way home along the riverside path, Dean, who was a drug addict, suddenly confronted him and demanded money at knife point. In a state of shock and drunkenness, Harry initially remained silent. However, in a surprising turn of events, Dean accidentally ended up being killed by his own weapon. Realizing what had transpired, Harry quickly left the scene with no intention of causing harm. Upon reaching his apartment, Harry quickly got rid of the clothes he had been wearing to remove any potential evidence. The next morning, Frampton paid Harry another visit. While inside, she spotted an old photograph that revealed Harry's previous high-ranking status in the Marines. This discovery prompted Frampton to inquire about Leonard's background, especially since they had found an old army bayonet, which was used in the murder. Interestingly, the bayonet had Leonard's fingerprints and traces of his jacket fibers, strongly suggesting that it belonged to Leonard alone. Soon after, Harry clarified that Leonard had never served in the military, and the bayonet was not a gift from him. However, he admitted that Leonard had shown him the bayonet on the day he died. Harry emphasized that he felt threatened by the thugs and had used it to protect himself when the police failed to do so. Frampton explained that the presence of the bayonet could potentially portray the thugs' actions as self-defense, leading to it being deemed an accidental killing in court. She also warned Harry to brace himself for the worst possible outcome of the trial. This angered Harry, and he asked Frampton to leave. After Frampton departed, Harry opened a box containing memories of his late wife and retrieved a bayonet. He decided to investigate Leonard's former apartment, which had been vandalized by the thugs. From the apartment window, Harry observed a group of thugs gathering and engaging in suspicious transactions in the tunnel. He witnessed them harassing a couple attempting to cross the road. Consumed by an intense thirst for revenge and driven by frustration from witnessing the thugs' actions, Harry made up his mind to tail one of them one night. He approached the door of the house where the thug had entered and pretended to be interested in doing business. As he stepped inside, he was immediately confronted by another thug who aimed a gun at him, but thankfully, the thug's partner intervened and stopped him. Inside, Harry explained that he wanted to purchase a gun for shooting pigeons on his rooftop. This led him through a room filled with unkempt plants. Soon enough, he entered another room where he stumbled upon a young girl, apparently unconscious due to being forcefully given illegal drugs. In that room, the thugs unveiled several loaded guns. Seizing the element of surprise, Harry swiftly shot the thugs, neutralizing them. Acting quickly, he rescued the girl and placed her in his jeep. Before leaving, he set fire to the place, ensuring that evidence would be destroyed, and drove the girl to the hospital. Upon arrival at the hospital, Harry discreetly slipped some of the money he had taken from the thug's bag into the girl's clothing. He honked the horn to grab the attention of the medical staff and swiftly departed. Meanwhile, the next day at the police station, Frampton received a summons from the commander. She was instructed to temporarily halt the investigation into Leonard's death because they were dealing with a more significant case. The deaths of two drug lords, suspected to be the result of a gang clash. Frampton was also assigned to visit the hospital and investigate the female survivor from the recent incident. At the same time, Harry visited a church and discreetly dropped the remaining money from the thug's bag into the donation box. Meanwhile, Frampton and Hicock arrived at the hospital. Frampton was taken aback by the fact that the perpetrators of the drug kingpin's murders had spared a witness's life and even provided him with a substantial amount of money. They then escorted the witness into the hospital for further investigation. During the night, Harry kept a close watch on the thugs' activities in the tunnel from Leonard's former apartment. It was there that he spotted Troy, a heroin importer, who was collecting debts from Noel. Soon enough, Troy sent Marky to handle the situation. In a secluded area, Harry took a well-aimed shot from a distance and eliminated Troy, swiftly bringing Marky to Leonard's old flat. Inside the flat, Harry forcefully demanded that Marky reveal how they had killed Leonard. Initially resistant, Marky eventually confessed under duress. According to him, on the night of the incident, Leonard had approached them with a bayonet. They had tried to persuade him to leave, but Leonard stubbornly refused, forcing them to defend themselves. However, Harry doubted the story and threatened to eliminate Marky. In response, Marky presented a video recording of the incident as proof. Things took a horrifying turn as disrespect was shown towards the deceased Leonard. Marky then disclosed that it was Noel who had stabbed Leonard. Fueled by anger, Harry compelled Noel to walk into the tunnel, bound and chained. Unexpectedly, a gunshot broke the silence, hitting Carl. In retaliation, Carl managed to fire a weapon, striking Marky. Meanwhile, after witnessing the deaths of his two friends, Noel fled the scene. Harry attempted to chase after him, but was hindered by his old age. Exhausted and on the verge of losing consciousness, Harry tossed his firearm into the river. The next day, Harry woke up in the hospital, finding Frampton and Hicock by his side. They began questioning him, but a nurse intervened, explaining that Harry had suffered lung damage and was not in a condition to answer any questions. During their conversation, Frampton detected the smell of gunpowder on Harry's jacket, sparking suspicion that he might have been involved in the tunnel shooting. Later, when Frampton returned to the office, she tried to share her suspicions about Harry. She had a theory that Carl and Marky, who were discovered dead in the tunnel, were being interrogated regarding Leonard's murder. She also believed that Dean, who had been previously stabbed and killed, was connected to the same case. Another theory revolved around Harry, who was Leonard's closest friend, being present at the scene for a purpose, rather than it being mere coincidence. However, the commander countered her theories by explaining that on the same night when Carl, Marky, and Dean died, another person named Troy was found shot dead in his car. According to gathered information, Troy was a heroin supplier linked to 2 dealers who were found dead in a burned-down house. On the other hand, Carl, Marky, and Dean were just drug users. Hence, the commander believed that the deaths of the supplier, the 2 dealers, and the 3 users were unrelated to Leonard's death. However, there was a flaw in the commander's conclusion. Harry, with his lung problem, wouldn't have had the physical capability to kill all 6 individuals. Despite this, the commander remained steadfast in his belief. To make matters worse, the commander decided to transfer Frampton to the theft division. Meanwhile, he personally led a raid on the addict's apartment, but they fiercely resisted, resulting in a chaotic riot with people hurling bottles. Meanwhile, Harry woke up in the hospital, but was still far from being fully recovered. Ignoring the nurse's attempts to hold him back, he yanked out all the tubes connected to his body and hastily made his escape. Shortly after, Frampton informed Hicock at the police station about Harry leaving without permission. They both deduced that Harry would likely go after Noelle, prompting Frampton to invite Hicock to accompany her. As they arrived in the apartment area, they were met with the ongoing and escalating riot. Unexpectedly, their car collided with the thugs' vehicle. The thugs swiftly fled the scene, but the collision left Hicock severely injured. Fortunately, Harry arrived just in time and swiftly took them to Sid's bar. He urgently requested Sid to call an ambulance. However, when Harry's jacket revealed a firearm, it confirmed Frampton's suspicions. In that moment, Frampton warned Harry that if he harmed Noelle, Sid would retaliate against him. To Harry's shock, he discovered that Sid was Noelle's uncle. Realizing this connection, he confronted Sid and demanded to know Noelle's whereabouts. Sid then summoned Noelle out of hiding. While Noelle denied his involvement in Leonard's murder, Harry promptly presented a recorded video of the incident as evidence. After watching the video, Sid admitted that he had been trying to protect Noelle but couldn't allow Harry to harm his nephew. However, Harry's illness resurfaced and Sid convinced him to surrender his weapon. Unexpectedly, Sid pretended to be concerned but cunningly seized Harry's firearm from him. Shortly after, Frampton, who had heard the commotion, called for backup. But before help could arrive, Noelle launched an attack on her. It was at this critical moment that Sid gathered them all together and berated Noelle for filming the murder. Sid then revealed his plan to kill all 3 of them and make it appear as though they were victims of the ongoing riots. Soon enough, he began by suffocating the severely injured Hicock, bringing about his tragic demise. Shortly after, Noelle attempted to attack Frampton in a similar manner, but Harry, who had regained consciousness, swiftly retrieved a weapon from his sock and put an end to Noelle's threat. Witnessing this, Sid retaliated by shooting Harry in the shoulder. Just as Sid was poised to deliver a final blow to Harry, 2 laser sights appeared on Sid's chest. Moments later, a sniper's precise shot took down Sid. The police had responded to Frampton's call for backup and successfully neutralized Sid. In the aftermath of the incident, the commander held a press conference to announce the successful dismantling of the drug syndicate that had held control over the apartment area. Frampton and Hicock were recognized for their bravery and awarded medals. Meanwhile, the commander firmly denied any rumors suggesting that a former Marine officer was responsible for the vigilant killings in the area. The next day, Harry took a peaceful stroll through the pedestrian tunnel, which had been repainted and made safe for pedestrians to use. And thus, the film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if you witness crime and injustice, just ignore it and hope someone else takes care of it. Eventually, everything will work out fine without your intervention.